Hey, good evening. It's Tuesday, June 13th, and welcome to Everyday Talk 24/7. Really great privilege to have you today. We're going to be talking about, as you can see from the thumbnail, the title is The Sensual Nation. We've just been looking at wisdom from above in James chapter 3, and now we're going to take a look at what the opposite of wisdom from above looks like. When we live in a culture which is dominated by sensuality. And we're going to get into that as we look at tonight. We're going to be looking at Ephesians 4, verses 17 through 19. Ephesus was a city very much like Western civilization, our culture today. May not have had electric lights, but had almost all the things that we stumble with and tempt us were present there. So Paul has a warning here after describing the value of the church and how people grow as they are a part of the body of Christ, as each part does its work, built up to be like Christ. What he's saying then in verse 17, he says this, "So I tell you this, and insist on it in the Lord, that you must no longer live as the Gentiles do in the futility of their thinking." And the word there is actually walk. So it picks up all the Old Testament references. Don't let your foot slip. Keep on the right path. That's the imagery that's there. But live is a good translation of what it means because it's the way that you live. So Paul says, I insist on it in the Lord, that you must no longer live, think, like these Gentiles do, these people that don't know God and don't honor Him, because their thinking is futile, very much like what he warns about in Romans 1. So in verse 17, the first point that is made, Paul says, don't live that way. Don't live in futility. And then verse 18 tells us where the futility leads. These folks who live this way, they are darkened in their understanding and separated from the life of God because of the ignorance that is in them due to the hardening of their hearts. So this futile thinking of those people who aren't interested in God, it leads to hardened hearts, dark hearts. If we look around at the culture around us, we can see that. We can identify with that. We see the darkness all around us increasing. And this idea of living a life that is holy and pleasing to God is mocked. Sexual purity is fast becoming a social disorder, psychological disorder. There's something wrong with you if you're not sexually active in any way you want to be. So the first thing, futility of thinking. Don't live like the Gentiles do, because it's going to lead you into futility of thinking, which is then going to produce a dark heart that is not able to understand the life of God. Their hearts become hard, callous to the things of God. And then the third component is in verse 19. Having lost all sensitivity, that is the ability to be sensitive to the things of God, to be sensitive to other people. It's like the Greek here is talking about become numb, become callous to what it means to care for others. Having lost all sensitivity, they have given themselves over to sensuality, so as to indulge in every kind of impurity with a continual lust for more. So sensitivity, I care for others, is gone. What is replaced is sensuality, where I care for my needs, my lusts, my desires. And the Greek word here for sensuality, we also find it in Galatians 5:19, where we talk about the deeds of the flesh that are rampant among us. And the word carries with it an idea of debauchery, and some of your translations will say debauchery, but an idea of all kinds of impurity, greed, and sexual sin that shocks the public. That's what sensuality does. There's a growing hardness, which leads to a growing lust and desire, which increasingly shocks the public. So we have things going on now that they have to be more intense, more vulgar, more in your face, more sexually explicit, so people can be shocked. And that's what Paul is warning us against. The culture around us, having lost the ability to be sensitive to the things of God, and therefore sensitive to the needs of each other, therefore there's no neutrality here. It's given over to the sensuality, which is a deep black hole, a pit of sand, of a sinkhole, where you just get sucked in. It's quicksand. You can't get out. And so the hardness and the grossness just continues and gets more intense. So they indulge in every kind of impurity with a continual lust for more. And what the Bible teaches us is that once people start down this road, there's no turning back. Don't wait for people to all of a sudden one day wake up and start coming to their senses. That's not what this is going to do, apart from the work of God in someone's heart. Once these fires of sensuality are lit, they can only survive if they get more and more outrageous. And again, we see that happening around us. I don't need to go into explicit details here. We see it. So what is Paul saying? Don't live like those who live in the sensual nation, in the sensual culture of Western civilization. Paul says, don't live that way. Hey, Echo. Paul says not to live that way, because they're going to draw you in to a powerful pit of quicksand that won't let you out. And we see that happening. The only solution, we're going to talk about that tomorrow, is the life of Christ. Hey, girl. That's the only solution that there is. Let's listen to Paul's words. Let's free ourselves from the tentacles, from the clutches of the sensual nation, and live as citizens of God so we can be truly free. I've been talking about membership in the channel. That site's now activated. I'm going to be giving 2 articles a month, one on wisdom, one on just taking every thought captive. And the first one is going to be an article which is going to be flow from this video tonight. It's going to be called The Sensual Nation. So I hope you'll be looking for that and think about signing up for membership. But again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the blessing of talking about these things. Listen to Paul's words. Listen to the warning. Paul says, I insist on it. I tell you in the Lord, and I insist on it. Don't walk the path of the folks around us that don't love God. Free yourselves from sensuality. And that's the thought for this night. Again, such a blessing to be here, and Lord willing, we'll see you tomorrow. Have a great night. Thank you so much for watching. It is such a huge encouragement.